Morning, everybody. This is the session on Cognassist and neurodiversity, obviously for National Apprenticeship Week. I'm just going to go through a few slides really to explain what it's all about, how we can support our colleagues, our learners, and anybody else within the trust that's got an interest in that area. If you have got any questions, then please add them in the chat, or if you join later on in the recording and anything like that, the recording will be available at a later date, so you can catch back up or share it with any of your colleagues that aren't able to attend today's session. I'm Lucy. I'm one of the functional skills assessors here in the Apprentice Centre, and my background has been working with additional learning support and obviously with functional skills, maths and English for the last 20 odd years. So it's an area that I've got an interest in, and I'm really passionate about supporting all learners and staff to achieve the best that they can. So what we're really going to look at today is just a brief overview of neurodiversity and what we can do to support ourselves, our colleagues and learners by using the new Cognassist system that we've recently just started using as the part of the trust. So hopefully by the end of this session you'll know roughly what is neurodiversity and how within the trust we can support our own staff and learners. So first of all, what is that neurodiversity? It's been additional learning support. It's been various different things. It seems to change its names quite frequently, but at the moment, neurodiversity is the word that's going forward to explain anybody that's got a different way of thinking and learning. We all think and we all learn differently. We're all unique, we're all individual, we all have different hobbies, we all take different career paths and so on. So everybody's different to start off with. Neurodiversity is a term that acknowledges this, and it acknowledges that everybody's mind is different, but not only is your mind different, we all think and take things in differently, but we're starting to realise now that our brains are all different. Some people are better at one thing than the others, and as we are getting more better at sort of understanding the brain, because obviously it's a very, very complex system, we're starting to realise how and why some people think and learn differently to others. So moving on, I'll see if I can bring up the poll. It's going to work. Just give it a session. So if you're on the call, can you just type into the chat when it comes up, what do you see with the picture that's in front of you? What's the first thing that pops into your mind? What do you initially see? And again, if you join in the chat later on, you can add to this. Yep, and the next one. So this dress did appear on Instagram a while ago and caused absolute uproar. So again, can you see a black or a blue dress, or is it a white and a gold dress? Yeah, so we've got different answers on that one, just with the few numbers of people that are on the call presently. So what does this mean? Basically, what this means is obviously we are all different. We all see things differently. Basically, the mind is a machine. It in the brain creates everything. It takes lets us know how we perform. It plans our daily work and everything that we do on a daily basis. Obviously, is linked to this. The mind and the brain makes shortcuts and, believe it or not, makes guesses about the information it continuously receives, hence why we all saw differently on those two pictures. Even within my own family, there's 4 of us in the household. 2 of us saw black and blue and the other 2 saw the gold and white. I see black and blue, I can see white and gold in the background, but the dress to me is black and blue. And I think this gets just to understand how differently our brains and how we all do perceive different things. What one person sees isn't necessarily the same thing as another person sees things. So again, it's important to take that into consideration when we're working with people. So again, an example would be when you're walking down the street, if you recognise a friend in the street, you might realise halfway down the street that it's not actually them. Your brain will pick up that, oh, it's somebody that looks like so and so because they've got similarities. They've got the same coloured hair, for example. Your brain is made perceptive shortcut on this and process that information. However, as you get closer, you realise that obviously it's not the person that you thought it was. However, if somebody's got quite severe difficulties processing visual information, they might actually get to that person and start talking to them before they actually realise it's not the person that they think it is, because they have a much slower visual processing speed. That's just one example of a neurodiversity. So we are all different. Variation in cognition is a good thing. Within a team, it is good to have people that think differently, come up with different ideas, that sort of thing. One person might see things one way, somebody else might see it differently. So it's a good idea to have a variety of people within your team, and we can learn from each other. And the data shows that's actually come out from the cognitive system that roughly 1 in every 3 people are neurodiverse and require support in one area. So roughly 30% of the population will have a neurodiversity need, whether it be linked to visual, whether it's linked to memory or anything else. There's one area that they struggle with. So moving on to Cognassist, we've obviously brought this system in, and what it is, it gets everybody to do roughly a half-an-hour assessment. It assesses the 8 main cognitive areas of the brain, and then will give you quite an in-depth report at the end. It's obviously been designed to identify hidden learning needs, and then it delivers personalised support and things like that, so that the people can move forward on the areas that it's identified as having a bit of a weakness. Their motto is we all learn differently, and that no learner or nobody should be left behind because of this. If we understand the areas that we struggle with, we're far more likely to be able to do something about it, and improve that area, or find a different way of working if that's better for you. So moving on to the 8 domains that it actually looks at. These are the areas that during the assessment it will actually do a bit of an assessment with. It's quite a fun assessment. It's not 101 sort of writing questions, and it has been designed obviously by scientists that have come up with this. And predominantly, I think the head of Cognassist obviously was not actually identified as having severe dyslexia until he got to university, which is often the case. We have many people, I'm sure we've all come across them, that know that they learn or they struggle in one area but don't actually understand why, or have never been assessed or anything for it. So looking quickly at the 8 domains, I'll just go through what they all cover. So executive functioning, that's the skills to be able to do problem solving. It's our concentration and attention. Being able to multitask, which we're all quite good at the moment, or expected to be quite good at the moment. We've always got more than one thing going on at any one time. Working memory and time management. So that's why that one is at the top, really. So most jobs, most college courses, anything like that, the executive function is the most important one. They're the skills that we need to have predominantly over all the others, really. Moving on to numeracy, so that obviously is everyday maths and English. Well, again, a lot of people really struggle with maths, but it's very rare that I've come across somebody that's actually been assessed as having dyscalculia or anything like that. They've just thought that they're bad at maths, they don't like it, and they've struggled with it all their life. But again, the assessment for this will look at sort of your ability to deal with patterns, Time comes into that as well. People that struggle with time management, again, that will come into that. And then obviously the ability to be able to measure things and deal with things like that. Non-verbal memory is spatial perception. So again, people that struggle with spatial perception would be picked up in that area. Struggle with orientation in direction. So again, if you're one of these people that really struggle to find your way anywhere, that's obviously an area that you may struggle with. And struggle to take in instructions. So if you're given a lot of verbal instructions, some people can only cope with one instruction at a time. If you give them 3 or 4 things to do, they might do the first one, they might do the last one, but you would not get them to do all 4 because their brain is designed so that it would only be able to cope with one instruction at a time and then move on to the next one. Visual information processing speed, that one is about, again, spatial perception comes into that one. Reading speed, we all read at different speeds. Some people are a lot faster than others. Some people read really fast and be able to take in that information, whereas other people read really slowly, struggle to take in that information and end up having to read it 3 or 4 times to be able to process it and take in what they've been reading. Writing speed and letter formation comes into that one as well. So people with untidy handwriting, it's how their brain sort of connects with your hand-eye coordination, if you like, is a lot of that one. Verbal memory, so again, spoken information, so again linking really a bit to the non-verbal memory with the instructions, and then being able to read. If you're reading to yourself, can you take in that information as well as obviously the spoken side of things. Verbal reasoning, that one looks at reading and spelling. Sorry, it doesn't. That's making predictions. So if you're in a meeting, you're given a lot of ideas and asked for your thoughts. It's being able to put them all together and being able to come up with your own thoughts, make predictions on whether you think it's going to work or not. Again, problem solving and generalising ideas as things that come up in that area. And then literacy is being able, all of them link a little bit to the processing of information, but obviously it's a lot more about the processing, reading, the fluency and the comprehension of reading, writing and spelling comes into that one. And again, your verbal instruction, so all the skills that you would associate with be needing to have if you was in a literacy lesson, for example. So they're very quickly, they're the 8 domains that the assessment looks at. So how it works, so basically you'll be sent the assessment. There's a few questions that we'll ask you prior to setting you onto the assessment, so we'll set that up for you. It will send you the assessment to do in your own time, so we recommend that people do it in when they've got plenty of time to do it, and obviously where they're not going to be distracted. Some of the questions are timed, so again you need to be set time away from other things to be able to complete it accurately. Once you've sat the assessment, it will send us a neurodiversity report. And this report is quite invaluable, really. It's very detailed, so one of the team will meet with that member of staff or with that person to go through it and explain what it all means. But it will pull out, if there is any areas that you've been identified with, how it's assessed that area, so what are the questions that you've been doing out, what parts of the assessment linked to that, and then what sort of things it would recommend you do. So it might not be, when we're not talking about spending thousands of pounds on new software to help you on the computer or anything like that. It can just be something as simple as allowing that person extra time if they are expected to read a document, for example, or if they're struggling with the visual perception. We're encouraged a lot to use 2 screens. Some people I work with just can't work with 2 screens. They find it too much information. It completely overloads them and they'd rather work with 1 screen, that sort of thing. So it does give you a list of things to do. So it'd be great for you to share with your manager, with your assessors or teachers, and anybody really, so that they are aware of what sort of things you struggle with and how they can help support you as well. And then moving on from that, what it does, the system actually gives you 4 modules a month. So the first month's module is a bit of a mixture between video clips and little activities to try out, and then it asks you to try the recommendation that it's giving you in your working world or in your learning to see how you get on with it. So the first month always explains a little bit more detail about the area that it's picked up on and what it means, how it affects you. And then there's many different things. We set them at different levels as well. So obviously, if you're a level 2 or a level 3 learner or somebody working at that level, you would be given different type of modules to somebody that's on level 6 or 7, for example. They'll be given a lot more management type modules to work through, and a lot more obviously supervisory type things rather than at level 2 and 3. It looks a lot about planning your work, time management, working with other people in a team, that sort of thing. So that's how that works. And then at the end of every month, they recommend that you meet with either your manager or somebody from the learning team just to discuss those strategies in the modules that you've looked at, to see if they have worked for you, and if there's something you're going to carry on with, or whether it's something else we need to go back and look at because you might need a little bit more support in that area. So obviously they're the support sessions. So that's how the package works from start to finish, really. There is many modules. I think there's a good 18 months, 2 years, so you can do all of them. The modules are quite short. They're only like 10 minutes, so we're not expecting people to spend hours and hours of their time to go over it. They can just log on their phone and any device just to access these modules, try them out and see whether it works for them or not. A lot of the time we do get asked, I think when people say I've got dyslexia or anything else, people and managers can panic if they don't understand what it is yourself or understand how to help that person. You might think that it needs a lot more support than actually it is there. So it can be just something as simple, like I say, is allowing extra time for reading tasks, allowing extra time for them to write down tasks or taking notes, and don't distract them while they're doing that. Within the trust, we have the Immersive Reader within Microsoft 365, in Microsoft Word and in all the other programs. And that automatically, if you click on that, you can change the text colour, the background colour, the spacing. It's absolutely brilliant for people that do with dyslexic type tendencies, really. So it can it works brilliantly for some people, and that's something that's already available within our systems. So again, if you're aware of a member of staff that struggles with their reading, don't ask them to read aloud in front of others. Just think of the embarrassment that might cause. And when you think back to school days, I've worked with a lot of learners that have said that they would rather get thrown out of the classroom and end up displaying bad behaviour, really, so they didn't have to stand up in front of their friends, in front of their classmates, and then realise how slow or how poor they felt their reading was. Distractions to a minimum. So again, we all work in quite busy environments sometimes, so if you're expecting somebody to do some work for you, a report or whatever, allow them to go somewhere quieter so there's no background noise. And also consider the room that you're working with. Some rooms you go into are absolutely full of posters and bits of information here, and lots of open windows with things going on outside. So again, they can be quite distracting, and for people that struggle in those sort of areas, can be difficult for them to be able to deal with. And then obviously from a learner side of things, we can identify anybody that needs any support in exams and in their endpoint assessment for our apprentices, and make sure if they've had extra time in doing all the working tasks, then they get that in their exams and things as well. Just one thing, just linking back to, I have mentioned dyslexia, Cognassist does not formally diagnose anything. So it's obviously a few of the areas you can link to the different learning disabilities, but it's not a formal diagnosis of dyslexia or ADHD or autism or anything like that. It just basically works on the 8 areas of cognition to say these are the areas that you struggle with and may need a little bit more support in. If you've got want any more information, or if you'd like to have a go at the Cognassist assessment yourself, then that's my email address at the bottom. You can email me directly, or email the apprentice inquiries box above, and we can sort that out for you and answer any questions or anything else like that. Especially if you're watching this recording back at a later date, then please feel free to contact me with any questions or any queries that you may have. And any questions from the people that are on the call today, from what I've said or what I've gone through so far? No. Okay, so I'll stop the recording there. As I say, if anybody's watching this back, please feel free to contact me, or if you add it into the chat at a later date, I'll pick that up and answer it for you. So I'll just stop the recording now.